who protects the chosen ones, 7 guardians you've never seen. There's something you've always felt, even before you had the words for it. You sensed it when everyone else was laughing, but you were quiet. When they followed trends, but you stayed still. When the world told you to be one thing, but your soul whispered, you were made for more. You may not fully understand it yet, but you are one of the chosen ones. And with that comes a reality most will never experience or survive. Because the truth is, being chosen is not a privilege. It's a weight, a spiritual assignment, a battlefield in disguise. And if you're still here, if you're breathing, watching, questioning, then you've already been through more than most. But here's what no one told you: you're not walking this path unguarded. The world around you is layered with forces seen and unseen assigned to watch over chosen ones like you. Not because you're special in the egoic sense, but because you're necessary. Because your vibration affects more than just you. When a chosen one rises, timelines shift. A collective karma burns. New possibilities unlock for thousands of souls. That's why you were never meant to walk this alone. That's why, even in your darkest hours, something always pulled you back. But something or someone always kept you from the edge. You didn't survive by accident. You were protected.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
But by who? That's what we're about to uncover together. Not in a fantasy way, not in vague spiritual cliches, but in truth, the raw, often unsettling truth. Because your guardians don't always appear as white-winged angels or glowing light beings, but sometimes they're shadowy presences. But sometimes they're the people who hurt you most. Sometimes they're energies that feel overwhelming, chaotic, even terrifying until you realize they were shielding you from something far worse. The first thing you must understand is this: chosen ones are not protected the way ordinary souls are. We don't get safety nets. We get initiation. Our protection is not comfort, it's transformation. Every guardian assigned to us knows that the real danger is not physical death, but it's spiritual forgetting. And so their methods are different, harsher, wiser. They don't intervene every time you cry, but they will intervene the moment your soul risks derailing its mission. That's when they appear, and they always appear. But do you see them? I want you to take a breath and think. How many times have you almost lost everything: your sanity, your will, your sense of self, only to have something pull you back at the last second? A dream, a stranger's words, and a book falling off the shelf. A sudden illness that forced you to rest. A near-death experience that changed your path. These were not random. These were interventions, and behind each one was a guardian. Some of your protectors are ancestral, blood-linked souls who crossed over but never left. They carry your family's ancient codes. They know the darkness that runs through your bloodline, and their mission is to make sure it ends with you. That's why you've always felt a weight that doesn't belong to you. Why you feel haunted by trauma you never lived through. You're not broken, you're clearing. You're being guided by those who chose to stay behind the veil to help you break the curse. Other protectors are energetic beings, what some call spirit guides, watchers, or higher intelligences. These entities don't have faces. They don't need names, but they communicate constantly through symbols, gut instincts, goosebumps and silence. They nudge you. They push people out of your life. They slow you down. They test your patience, not to torture you but to tune you, because your power is frequency dependent. But if they didn't interfere when you drifted off course, you'd never become who you came here to be. And then there are the human guardians, the ones who walk beside you in the flesh. These are often the most confusing, because they don't always look like allies. In fact, some of them come dressed as enemies, teachers who criticize you, lovers who break you, friends who leave without explanation. But look deeper. Their departure pushed you into your awakening. Their rejection forced you to discover your worth. Their betrayal burned away your illusions. And when you emerged, you weren't bitter, you were clear. That's guardian energy. It doesn't pamper. It purifies. You may be wondering, why me? Why do I need this level of protection? And here's the answer: because you're not here for a normal life. You were born encoded. You carry a vibration that dismantles illusion, even if you don't fully know how yet. And that makes you a threat to systems, to unconsciousness, to parasitic energies that feed on chaos. So the moment your light started to flicker, yes, even in childhood you became a target. But also, the guardians were activated. Some began watching. Some began walking with you. Some were already part of your soul contract, waiting to be triggered by your first trauma, your first awakening, your first real decision to choose the truth over comfort. And here's what they all have in common: they only intervene when it matters. That's why you don't always feel them. That's why they let you struggle. Because their job is not to remove the fire. It's to make sure you don't burn before your wings grow. So ask yourself this: can you look back now and see the fingerprints? The interventions? The strange turns that make no logical sense but saved you anyway? Can you feel the invisible net that caught you every time you fell too far? What if that net has a name? What if it has a face? What if one of your unseen protectors is standing in the room right now, listening, waiting for you to finally remember? They've never left. You've just been too busy surviving to notice. The shadow protectors, why the darkest forces are sometimes on your side. We all love the idea of light protectors, beings of pure energy, shimmering guardians who glow with love and wisdom. That version is easy to accept, easy to honor. But the deeper truth, one that only the truly awakened ever grasp, is this: not all protectors arrive bathed in light. Some come wrapped in shadow, some are the shadow. And the paradox is this: the darkness you feared most might have been protecting you all along. This is one of the hardest spiritual truths to integrate, because it goes against everything we've been taught. That light is good, darkness is bad. That safety feels warm, that protection is gentle. But you and I both know your real transformations didn't happen during soft seasons. They happened during the storms. And what if, in those storms, there were entities and forces you mistook as punishment, when in fact they were guardians in disguise? But I need you to open your perception for a moment. Not just your mind, but your energetic memory. Think back to a time when everything was falling apart. You weren't meditating on a mountaintop or floating in a sea of bliss. No, you were crumbling. Maybe you were in a toxic relationship. Maybe you lost your job, your sense of identity, or even your will to live. Maybe you felt like you were being attacked spiritually, sleepless nights, terrifying dreams, people turning against you. And yet, something kept you just alive enough to reach the other side. You didn't die. You didn't disappear. You evolved. That is not a coincidence. That is shadow protection. There are guardians who operate in realms we don't fully understand. They work with intensity, not tenderness. They don't care if you like them. They care if you transform. These are the shadow protectors. They are the forces that step in when all else fails. When your light protectors can't reach you because your ego is too loud, your heart is too numb, or your pride is too high. That's when the shadow steps in, not to destroy you, but to break you open. Sometimes these forces appear in forms that scare you: entities, dreams, recurring symbols that make your skin crawl. Sometimes they possess a chaotic nature. Think about the person who pushed you to your edge, the one you demonized, swore you'd never forgive, who cracked your ego like glass. What if they were activated by your shadow protectors? Not as villains, but as catalysts. The fire was real, but it was sacred. And your survival. That was their mission. This isn't spiritual fiction. It's spiritual initiation. The universe doesn't assign shadow protectors to everyone, only the chosen ones. Because only we are built to withstand and learn from that kind of intensity. The shadow protectors don't shield you from pain. They push you into it. And only when you're fully immersed, when your soul starts screaming, do you begin to remember what you were always meant to be. That's when the real protection reveals itself, not in the absence of pain, but in the evolution it triggers. Now, I know what you might be wondering. How do I know the difference between an actual spiritual attack and a shadow guardian? And that's a deep question, one that only your inner discernment can answer. But here's the key: spiritual attacks leave you drained, confused, fragmented. Shadow guardians may terrify you, but they activate something. But you emerge clearer, stronger, even if you're still trembling. There's a deeper sense of order in the chaos they bring. They leave codes, not just wounds. If the darkness you encountered made you remember your worth, realign your path, or reclaim your voice, it wasn't a curse. It was protection disguised as destruction. Some ancient traditions speak of guardian spirits who are fierce, even violent in appearance. They are said to scare away parasitic energies by embodying something scarier. They are protectors who become the darkness so that the real darkness can't get in. These are not demons. They are the cosmic gatekeepers of the chosen ones. And once you recognize them, everything changes. You stop running. You start listening. You realize that not every shadow is an enemy. Some are ancestors in warrior form. Some are fractured pieces of your own higher self sent back in time to guard you before you awaken fully. Some are raw elemental forces: fire, wind, silence, stillness, nudging you to go deeper, to shed another skin, to become the weapon you were forged to be. And what do these shadow protectors expect from you in return? Not worship, not obedience, just courage, and the willingness to face yourself, to stop begging for peace and start building it, to look at the mirror, even when it shows you everything you've tried to bury. That's when they reveal themselves. That's when they stop showing up as chaos and start showing up as guides. So here's the question I leave you with. What if the scariest chapter of your life was not a curse but your most powerful initiation? What if the dark night of the soul wasn't a detour, but the gateway to your guardians? Can you look at your past pain and see the protection inside it? Because if you can, you're already in contact with them. You've already met one of the seven. The silent ones, how invisible forces guide chosen ones without speaking a word. There are protectors who roar like storms and shake your world until your falsehoods fall away. But there is another kind, quieter, older, more mysterious. They don't intervene with noise. They don't send signs you can capture with a camera. They don't enter your dreams like messengers with names. Instead, they sit at the edges of your life, in the gaps between thoughts, in the space between your heartbeats. They're the silent ones, the watchers, the invisible forces who have been with you since the moment your soul agreed to descend into this chaotic, beautiful world. And they protect you not through confrontation, but through alignment. These guardians don't use words. They don't need to. They work through synchronicity, through timing so precise that if you blink, you miss the miracle. Have you ever arrived late to something only to discover that the delay saved you? Ever changed your mind about a road, a person, a place at the last second and realized later it was the most important decision of your life? That's the hand of the silent ones. They don't yell "go left." They simply shift reality around you so that left becomes the only path that opens. They are the architects of the unseen blueprint beneath your journey. They work with patterns, not paragraphs. While the world shouts and distracts, they orchestrate behind the curtain. You might think it's your instinct, your intuition, your gut, but what if that inner pull is a direct transmission from them? They're not outside you. They move through you. They shape your internal compass. They are the reason you suddenly feel nauseous around someone who's smiling. The reason you lose interest in something right before it turns toxic. The reason you just feel a certain truth in your bones, even when logic says otherwise. Their silence isn't absence, it's purity. The silent ones don't manipulate you with visions or demand your belief. They don't need your rituals or affirmations to function. They are bound to your higher self through covenant, not contract. That means no matter how lost you feel, how far you wander, they are there adjusting frequencies, redirecting events, and collapsing timelines that would have destroyed you. But only just enough. Because their protection doesn't come to prevent all pain, it comes to prevent pointless pain. It comes to keep you aligned with the true axis of your soul's reason for being. Have you ever thought about the lives you didn't live? The paths you almost took? The relationships you almost drowned in? The jobs that nearly enslaved you? The addictions that almost seduced you completely? Think about how many of those you barely escaped. And now consider this. What if your free will wasn't the only reason? What if there was an ancient force, one you've never named, interfering just enough to steer you back on course? Sometimes they withdraw, not as punishment, but to honor your growth. When you hit certain vibrational thresholds, the silent ones step back. They watch how you navigate silence, how you respond when no sign is given. Because in the silence, your character is refined. And if you begin to walk like one who trusts, not just believes, but trusts, then the next layer of guidance unfolds. not with a trumpet blast, but with that feeling in your soul like, yes, this is where I was always meant to go. These protectors are not worshipped in temples. They aren't written about in scriptures. You'll rarely hear a spiritual teacher talk about them, because they cannot be boxed or summoned. They are older than form, and they've chosen to bind themselves to you not because you begged, but because you were chosen. Because your mission holds ripples that affect generations, because without you, the balance tilts. That's why they interfere when you're too far gone. That's why they allow just enough pain to wake you, but never enough to end you. And the way to build a deeper relationship with them is counterintuitive. You don't need more action, you need more stillness, more listening, not with your ears, but with your life. Begin to watch the spaces between things, the pause before someone speaks, the moment before an event unfolds. That's where they live, that's where they whisper, not with sound, but with resonance. And if you begin to treat your life like a language, every delay, every door, every disruption, you'll realize they've been talking to you all along. So I ask you this, what if you stopped begging for louder answers and started trusting the quiet nudges? What if the universe isn't silent, but waiting for you to become quiet enough to hear it? Can you live in alignment so purely that guidance becomes effortless? If you can, then you're already walking in step with the silent ones. And without even realizing it, you're being guarded by wisdom so ancient, it doesn't even need a voice. The final 7, how each guardian unlocks a hidden superpower in the chosen one. By now, you may have started to see it, that your life has never been random, that the chaos, the silence, the betrayal, and the unexpected turns weren't just experiences. You were being shaped, forged, and protected. But protection is only half the story. The real secret is this: every guardian that watches over a chosen one doesn't just shield them from harm. They awaken within them a power, a gift, a spiritual weapon that was always hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment, the right pain, the right presence to activate it. There are 7 primary types of guardians. Each one corresponds to a force within you, a forgotten gift, a divine ability. And each time one of these guardians intervenes, whether through a dream, a disruption, or a mysterious inner knowing, they aren't just keeping you safe. They're unlocking the next level of who you were born to be. The first guardian awakens your discernment. This one comes when you're surrounded by lies, false friendships, fake mentors, toxic environments. This protector won't coddle you, they'll expose. They'll shine a light so bright on the illusion that you're forced to choose between truth and comfort. After they enter, you'll never be able to ignore your intuition again. You'll see through masks like glass. And while it may isolate you, it will also protect you from ever falling asleep to falsehood again. The second guardian activates your voice. Often after deep betrayal or prolonged silence, this protector appears through the cracks in your identity. They push you to speak, to scream, to reclaim your story. They don't protect you from being misunderstood, they protect you from disappearing. After their work is done, your words carry power. Your truth becomes a frequency that others feel, and you'll no longer fear being seen. The third guardian awakens your rage, but not the chaotic kind, sacred rage. This one shows up when you've been mistreated, silenced, violated. They awaken the part of you that refuses to be broken. They don't calm you down, they burn the old you away. After they leave, your boundaries become unshakable. You won't just protect yourself, you'll begin to protect others. The fourth guardian unlocks your resilience, usually after collapse, illness, heartbreak. This one doesn't speak. They just keep you breathing, one breath at a time. You survive because of them. You may never know their name, but you'll know what they gave you, the ability to stand again, to rise. And with that you carry an energy others sense before you even speak. This one has walked through fire and did not fall. The fifth guardian brings forth your vision. This one comes through stillness, often during a retreat, a dream, or a deep loss. They open your eyes to possibility. You begin seeing signs, glimpses, futures no one else sees. After this, you'll never again be able to live small. You'll start building things that don't exist yet. You become a vessel for the future to be born through. The sixth guardian unlocks your compassion. After you've judged, after you've hardened, they soften you, sometimes through tragedy, sometimes through the healing of an old enemy. You begin to see that everyone is walking with wounds, and suddenly your heart becomes a sanctuary, not a shield. You start lifting others without losing yourself. This is the guardian who helps you move from pain to purpose. And finally, the seventh guardian. This one doesn't awaken a trait. They awaken you, your essence. They don't protect you from anything. They simply remind you, in a moment of silence, of who you really are. No drama, no event, just a knowing and a remembering, a homecoming. After this guardian touches you, you don't need protection anymore. You've become it. You are no longer the one being watched. You are now the one who watches over others. So now I ask you, have you met them already? Can you feel which ones are still near, which have left their imprint on your soul, and which one is awakening in you right now? But they've been with you every step of the way. And now you're ready to become who they were preparing you to be.